and welcome to Out of Spec Motoring. Today we have a really fun episode because Toyota has dropped off the 200 Series 2020 Land Cruiser Heritage Edition, and there's a lot to talk about with this car, and we're going to do it while we go off-road. Because this is the Land Cruiser Heritage Edition, we should talk about the Land Cruiser's past. Just like with any strong and sturdy SUV, the Land Cruiser was born out of times of war. It was a vehicle originally developed for military use. Japan's National Police Reserve Forces had called for a rugged, locally built, all-terrain four-wheel drive vehicle. Toyota stepped up and demonstrated a highly capable little truck known as the Toyota BJ. And although the National Police Reserve Forces passed on the little plucky BJ, the Japan's National Police Agency ordered a fleet, as did the forestry and utility agencies. By 1954, Toyota ditched the BJ name and the Land Cruiser was born. It was named Land Cruiser because the director of technology for Toyota observed that the vehicle seemed to easily cruise over the roughest terrain. Fast forward through Land Cruiser's storied past through the 20 series all the way to the 1 and 200 series of today's modern Land Cruisers, the Land Cruiser has proven to be the most reliable, rugged, and dependable SUV available on the market globally. For the 2020 model year, Toyota has chosen to commemorate 1,200 units to that 70-year storied past. The name, of course, is the Heritage Edition. And while most of the changes for the Heritage Edition are purely cosmetic, the vehicle was designed to embody the spirit of Land Cruiser, all of the adventures, all of the ruggedness, all of the hard work that has been put in over the years since its inception. And I've always had a soft spot for these cars. I love these things. They are one of the last true adventure off-road vehicles that you really can do stuff like this and not worry about it. Of course, the Range Rovers have gotten soft. You worry about the paint work going off-road, damaging your wheels. G-Wagons are just too expensive and not really that off-roady. But if you want to go across Africa in the middle of the desert and hot heat, and you want to make sure you get it there, you choose a Land Cruiser every single time. So let's go around. This thing has a ton of cool tech, ton of off-roading features. It's built like a tank, and I'm going to show you around the car before we go off-roading. As you guys know, the Land Cruiser is really the top dog of the SUV lineup from Toyota. You sort of have the 4Runner, the Venza somewhere in there, the Sequoia, which is a big family SUV, and then for basically twice the price, you jump up to a Land Cruiser. Now, one of the reasons you don't see these all too often is one, basically the price. I mean, it's 90 grand. This one's like 89,600 something. I mean, it nearest makes no difference. It's a lot of money for a vehicle. So why is it worth twice the price over an arguably just as practical Toyota Sequoia? Well, first off, just look at this thing. This thing is built to conquer terrain. Most people are using their vehicles to get to and from the Starbucks, and this can certainly do that very comfortably, but it can also get you out here. And I will say, let me show you around the thing. It is pretty big. Now, the Heritage Edition, to note though, this trunk is really aggravatingly slow. So Toyota, put some faster motors in this thing. This thing is the Heritage Edition. What that means is you lose the third row seats in favor of more cargo space, which was perfect for me this week because I had this thing filled with stuff, again, with the trailer, with the move, so I was very happy with that. You get these sick bronze-ish wheels that look really good. You get the roof basket on top, and the coolest badges, let me show you. These are from the original Land Cruiser, basically Toyota in the old font. How cool is that? Basically, driving this thing around all week, all of the TRD Pro 4Runners people were like, sick truck, dude. So, cargo space on the inside. It's very plentiful, it's comfortable, it's not luxurious. The thing is, for 90 grand, a Range Rover is gonna be more comfortable. But you don't buy this because you want a comfortable vehicle. You buy this, again, so you can go places. This vehicle's really a gateway to an adventure. The adventure isn't really in here. It has tons of off-roady bits, air-conditioned seats, which is nice, but there's not much other tech. It has adaptive cruise control, but it doesn't do stop and go, so below like 20 miles an hour, it shuts off. Again, let's go show you what this thing's really built for now that we've gone through the boring stuff. Let's go have some fun off-road. Now we're in the 200 series Land Cruiser, again, 2020 model, brand new, Heritage Edition, really cool car. And we're pointing basically at a straight uphill climb. And what we're going to do is select low range. I'm already in it. We're gonna put the car in crawl control. And this is essentially off-road cruise control. It's pretty cool. So I can select the type of terrain from mud and sand to loose rock, mogul, rock and dirt, or rock. I'd say this is more dirt than anything, so I'll select rock and dirt. Then I can adjust the speed once I'm in crawl control with this little knob to go faster or slower. So let's point this thing at the uphill and turn crawl control on at speed 2, and we're gonna let itself climb up this hill. Now you can hear the ABS pump kicking away there. And again, we have all-wheel drive. It's gonna choose the brakes to go to. We have the center diff locked, and it's gonna crawl itself up this hill. I'm gonna select a higher speed. My feet aren't on the pedals. It really is like cruise control off-road. This is pretty cool. Now the Land Cruiser also has something called KDSS, which is a mechanically operated adjustable suspension system. And what that does is basically it disconnects the sway bars on demand. So as we go through these big moguls that really don't feel like much, again, I'm not touching anything, we're off-roading, the car is able to have tons of articulation, but retain a lot of the on-road driving dynamics that you would expect from a normal SUV, not a true off-roader. And that brings us to another piece of cool tech. While we're facing the sky here, Timon's getting some pictures, you get this kind of nifty off-road menu. And now everything in this screen's kind of old. It reminds us like what 2007 was like. But pretty much you can see a pitch and yaw in degrees. So we're basically 30 degrees, just below 30 degrees up in the air, which is pretty steep, I'd say. We're gonna see if she wants to climb pretty easily. Oh my goodness, I can't see a damn thing. I cannot see anything. That was freaking awesome! Yeah! $90,000 of just climbing straight up and down hills. I didn't know if we could do that. I love this thing so much. Cruising around our little off-road park at the out-of-spec track, we should talk about, you know, what I've experienced, learned from my time with the cruiser, the Land Cruiser. So I've had this thing for just about 1,200 miles this week, just moving back and forth. So I've spent a lot of time on road with this car, and it is really nice to cruise on road. The suspension is very compliant. You know, it's a comfortable place to be. Not luxurious, I wouldn't use that word, but it's certainly pleasant. And this thing feels beefy, gets a lot of looks. Really kind of a meaty car. I like it a lot. The biggest downside to driving this so much though is the fuel economy. I have averaged, I'm gonna look right now, that way let's take a look. Over my 1,134.7 miles, I've averaged 11.9 miles per gallon. Yikes! That's really bad, like really bad. But I guess if you're going out in the middle of nowhere, you're going to be carrying some extra fuel tanks. Now, since we're here and we're sort of in an open turnaround spot, this car has another cool feature that I really like. When I put crawl control on, gotta be in drive, select crawl control, I have to deselect the locking differentials. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 speeds. I'm going to put us on the second speed, and then I'm going to click this little button that has like an arrow with a loop. It looks like a U-turn. And what this does is essentially when I turn the wheel all the way, it locks the inside rear wheel to pull the front around to decrease your turning radius. So let's try that. I'm turned all the way. I can see the back wheel is dragging out there, and we are just making this turn way tighter than we normally would. It's kind of a weird sensation. And what a great idea it is to it drastically decreases the turning radius. This is great for off-roading. I've already used it in an off-road situation on the first day this car got dropped off, and it was extremely helpful. So I think this is one of the only cars that has that technology. We'll see Rivian in the future with 4 motors. They're able to do tank turns. That'll be really cool. But yeah, we can just see a little skid mark the whole way around from dragging the rear wheel. Neat piece of tech. Let's get us set up for a little bit of dirt rock crawling, kind of. So we're going to go back to low range. We are going to lock the diffs, the center diff. Okay, locked. We are going to select crawl control. Need to be in drive now. Crawl activated. Hold on, we got to select the terrain first. This is mud and sand. No. Loose rock. I think rock and dirt probably makes most sense because that's exactly what it's made of. And then we're going to select crawl control, and we're going to go 1 on the speed, the lowest possible. And we have some crazy terrain. Now this thing has some great approach and departure angles, so let's hope those work well. We're going to crawl ourselves up this in crawl control. You can hear the ABS working away. Oh boy. Let's select speed 2 now that the front's over it. This is so cool. I love this off-road cruise control thing, but I haven't really driven without it. So let's turn it off. We're going to select second gear low range, and let's cruise up this hill. I mean, I think the problem is this vehicle makes any obstacle just seem so small and minuscule. We've pointed this thing at some serious obstacles, and it has taken it. The only thing I know about off-roading is thumbs on the outside of the wheel, thanks to my time watching Top Gear. But I don't know much else than that. Let's get this thing up over here. This looks like we'll get some more suspension articulation over these, whoa, big moguls. All right, we're gonna drop it down. Oh my God. We're gonna drop it down. We are definitely lifting a wheel there. Look at this screen, it's like, I don't know if this comes through on video, but we were like, whoop. So I'm gonna go get a picture of that on the outside. I think that probably looks pretty cool. And this is where we leave off the off-road portion of this review in the Land Cruiser. And I wanted to talk about KDSS, which is adaptive suspension, but it is passive, mechanical, not active in any way. You can see on the road, we'll talk about it here in just a second. We'll just do a quick lap of the track and talk about its on-road manners. But the car is very planted and stable on the road. But you're also able to have this crazy articulation off-road. I found like the deepest gully I could stick this thing into, and we're still not three-wheeling it. And that's because the KDSS system has allowed for the sway bars to deactivate all passively through hydraulic levelers so that the wheel can dip down, so you're not really ever losing contact with the ground. Now, if you look at the other side over here, you can see how much gap there is. The other side's completely tucked inside the wheel well. It's just impressive to see what this thing can do over here. Another cool thing is you can see these ditches. This thing has such a great approach angle that you're not even close to touching the front bumper on these things. Like, you can really just go just about anywhere with this car. It is really impressive. Let's jump on the road, talk about this thing as a daily driver, and then we'll wrap up the Land Cruiser review. And now you've seen what the Land Cruiser is truly made for, but what's it like on the road, which is where you're going to be using this thing to get to the off-road trails or all the time? Well, first things first, I think we should talk about power, because it's on paper seemingly underpowered. 350, 380 horsepower, like, it doesn't seem much. There's no 500 horsepower supercharged Range Rover numbers, nothing like that. But let's come from a stop. I got the transmission in power mode and just floor it. And it's got an 8-speed auto, which is quite snappy actually. And we're already at 60, so I'd say it's more than adequately powered. The most impressive part about this car on the road, and granted I know we're at our research track here, but we're not tracking it, the most impressive part is the braking system. This gets beefed up brakes, the Land Cruiser does, over the other Toyota models, and they are impressively good. Like, you hit the brake pedal and you just stop on a dime. It's really cool. I don't know if you guys have driven, but if you drive like a Tahoe or Suburban, you know the pedal's really squishy and there's almost no feel. And what I mean by feels, it's really hard to like gauge how hard you're getting braking pressure out of them based on your pedal pressure. So here, if I touch the brakes a little bit, it's good, but if I just push a little harder, they're snappy and they're there. I really like it. I think it's pretty reassuring knowing that you have a braking system right behind you. Cornering wise, this is the impressive part. After all that articulation that this thing just did, not that we're going fast at all, but I can sort of throw this thing into a corner quite comfortably. And look at that, it's staying relatively flat. And we're not slow here. Like, this is pretty good handling. I am just totally shocked by how good this car is on road. I would say it drives just as good as any of its competitors on the road. It might even be a little bit more sure-footed than the Range Rovers without the adaptive suspension. The Range Rovers with the adaptive suspension are really good on road. This is so cool. I really like the Land Cruiser. And I used it like a truck this week. I had a trailer on the back of this thing almost every day, hauling heavy loads up and down the highway, working it hard. At no point did it complain, did it feel stressed. We've been off-roading it. It's had great manners. Honestly, I see why people buy these, and I wish more people would, because it really embodies the adventurous spirit that so many people have, but they just don't buy the right vehicle. They buy like Subaru Outbacks or something that can't really do everything you want it to do. This can do everything you want it to do. And I guess it is kind of cool that it's a specialty piece, and when you see another Land Cruiser, you wave to the owners, and it's like a little club. I get that. I really like it. And I really do like that this is one of the last true, solid, old school built vehicles. There's not too much tech in here. There's no, forced induction. You put your foot down, you feel that V8 work, but it's not stressed. It's just nice. It is, like I said, reminds us how good 2007 was. So there you go, the Land Cruiser Heritage Edition. I definitely see why people buy it. I would like to own one day. I think this would be a cool vehicle to go and do some overlanding with. I believe it's one of the most popular SUVs sold in Australia, and I see why. You can cruise across the outback in this thing and have zero thought of ever breaking down. Toyota builds a solid product. We'll see you guys on the next one. I'll miss the Land Cruiser. This has been a great workhorse for me this week. Well, you may be